In my video on Cuphead, I talked briefly about what makes a good rage game, and why some people, myself included, love to play them. I mentioned that the challenge has to be fair and the player needs full control over their character in order for the accomplishment to feel satisfying. But I think there's more to it than that. Two other key factors that most rage games employ to be successful are fast respawns and incremental progress. The reason these titles are able to have overwhelming obstacles in your way is because you can restart to try again with practically no punishment. Often they'll have a dedicated retry button so that you can get back into the action as quickly as possible. But this combines with the fact that you're gaining little bits of progression along the way, and every screen you clear feels like a micro accomplishment or like its own level that you bested. So by the end of the game, it wasn't so much that you've conquered an entire gauntlet of ridiculous tricks and traps, but rather completed increasingly harder tasks until the ending. It's more manageable than you may initially think. But perhaps the most gratifying part is that if you were to start the entire game over, you would have a much easier time going through it again than you did in your first run through. Parts that made you want to pull your hair out now are mere child's play because you've grown as a player. But now a new game has come along, a curious little title called Getting Over It, and it pretty much threw all of these concepts out the window. And yet, it might be the pinnacle of what makes a rage game work. Today on Good Game Design, let's talk about why. Bennett Foddy, whose name is in the title, is the creator of this game and many others you might recognize, like QWOP and GURP, which are all known for their ridiculous control schemes and unforgiving difficulty. Foddy is not afraid to challenge you or to make it appear like it's not your fault, and Getting Over It is no exception. You play as a shirtless man in a pot trying to climb a mountain with nothing but a hammer, and the one and only control is your mouse cursor that moves the hammer around. It sounds simple because it is, but in practice it can feel unintuitive and very frustrating. But it's not that the controls are bad, they just take some getting used to. The hammer will do the same thing every time, much like the rest of Foddy's games, you just need to learn how to master it. That's really all there is to it from a gameplay perspective, but I quickly learned that Getting Over It is about much more than this one mechanic and goal. As you start your journey, Bennett Foddy himself is your narrator, explaining parts of his development process and the mindset that went into the game's creation while you play. He begins by describing the feeling of starting over, and giving a warning that you may have to take breaks and come back later if you get irritated. I took this as an ominous "turn back now" message, rolled my eyes and kept going, not thinking much of it. The first slope is meant to be a good introductory challenge, at just the right angles so that you might fall back down a little bit here and there, but not enough to quit out of resentment. It teaches you how to correctly use your hammer, and that some ledges will be out of reach without the use of momentum, which becomes a recurring tactic throughout the game. But the higher you get, the larger the fall will be if you make a mistake. And since the game requires you to make quick maneuvers some of the time, you have to be careful while also being reckless simultaneously. As I clawed my way up obstacle after obstacle for a few hours on stream, I had my first monumental fall all the way to the bottom of the mountain. Here's my reaction. No, 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 no! No!
Raven cry. I am not there. I did not die. Mary Fry.
I was devastated, and Foddy had nothing but an inspirational quote and some soothing music to encourage me to try again. This is when I realized Getting Over It is unlike most other rage games. It doesn't have the trademark elements of fast respawns and incremental progress. It'll automatically save no matter where you are, so you can't just quit and try a particular jump again. And while there are certain platforms that act as safe zones as you advance, there's always a looming danger of making a wrong move that lands you back at square one. In other rage games, once you hit a save point, you never have to worry about previous challenges again. But here, you will have to start over again and again. You see, Getting Over It is trying to show its message through two important themes: failure and taking your time. Foddy warned me from the very beginning that starting over should be an assumed expectation, but that it's okay because every mistake is teaching me how to improve on my next run, and new ways to tackle a situation. And wouldn't you know it, like any good rage game, my next attempt up the mountain was significantly easier and faster than before. A section that took me hours to complete now could simply be reached within a couple of minutes. And then I climbed to even newer heights with each consecutive pass. As I continued up the mountain, Foddy began to describe how we consume media as a society, and how we hastily discard something once we've seen it. We don't take the time to appreciate creative works like we should, because we've already moved on to the next big thing. Foddy purposefully uses throwaway, or B art as he calls it, to show how easy it would be to write off a game like this. But there's a deeper message if you're willing to let it simmer for a while. I didn't expect getting over it to become so meta, but I recognized how true the sentiment really is. As a YouTuber, this echoed my thoughts that have been forming over the last year or so. Time moves incredibly fast on the internet, and there's a lot of pressure for us as creators to quickly move on and churn out another video, because by the time we finally complete one, people are already talking about what's coming next. I don't have a chance to stop and smell the roses that many games have to offer, or truly appreciate them as works of art, because as a tech-savvy people, we can only focus on one subject for so long. For example, I don't think I've booted up Breath of the Wild to see what else I could find in its world since it first came out in March, because there are too many other games that need to be covered. It's a huge frustration I have, and in some aspects, it can take away from the enjoyment games provide, because it forces me to look at them as products to be consumed rather than a story that needs to be heard. So, how do we fix this? Well, by starting over and taking our time. Since that huge devastating fall I took on my first attempt, I have fallen down this mountain countless times, and from even higher heights, but each time it became less annoying and more a moment to take in everything around me. I started to appreciate the intricate details of every shape and angle of the objects I was climbing, and I understood why Foddy said he just couldn't bring himself to remove any aspect, despite how hard it was at first glance. Every hurdle became something I respected as I overcame it, and was much less of a threat afterward. You get to intimately know the specific maneuvers that work or don't work, and exactly how the game operates. You learn that the hammer isn't as awkward as it seemed at first, and that it can do some very intricate movement if you use it correctly. I mean, if you watch a speedrun of this game, it can be completed in just a few minutes. So why would people continue to play a game about falling down a mountain over and over again if that seems to be the only point? It's the same reason it felt so great when I beat I Wanna Be the Guy for the first time, or when you claim that winner winner chicken dinner in PUBG. Heck, it's even the reason Markiplier can rage quit this game so hard that he throws a chair, but then comes back to play it a few days later. We're all seeking that accomplishment, the ability to conquer. But this time, it's not just to beat a challenging game, but getting over the fear of failure itself. Hey there, I'm Snowman. Thanks for watching another episode of Good Game Design. If you want to see more analytical content, be sure to subscribe. And if you ever want to help support the channel, you can do so at patreon.com/snowmangaming. I'll see you guys next time. Stay frosty, my friends.